That was my fault. Could I invite New Zealand Rugby forward, please? Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, kia ora, good afternoon. I'm Nigel Cass, the Chief Rugby Officer from New Zealand Rugby. I should first just extend an apology from Brent Impey, my Chairman, and Steve Chu, my Chief Executive. They're both on rugby business in Dublin, otherwise they would have been here in person today.
That's right, we've got lots of hard questions for you.
Good. Firstly, thanks for the opportunity to present today in support of our submission of bringing forward the building of a multi-use arena with a roof as part of the Council's long-term plan. Firstly, New Zealand Rugby understands that the City of Christchurch and the Council are faced with competing pressures in terms of other community facilities, and we deeply respect the tough decisions that have to be made. We recognise that the temporary AMI Stadium has served a good purpose at a time of urgent need, but its limitations are well documented, and this has unfortunately meant that Christchurch and the Canterbury region have been missing out on major events, including All Black Test matches. The current facility generates less than 50% of the net revenue of the next lowest yielding venue that hosts Test matches in New Zealand, and in the current environment, New Zealand Rugby faces considerable challenges, particularly with our ability to maintain our current player base in New Zealand and to continue to support the community game. For this reason, it is just not possible to play All Black Test matches in the temporary AMI Stadium on a regular basis. We also understand that the AMI Stadium was designed to be temporary, and its construction and age have meant that maintenance costs continue to escalate. We therefore commend the City for recognising the need for bringing forward the development of a new multi-use arena in the City. We maintain that the final decision on design, capacity, roof, etc. must be made by the immediate stakeholders and not New Zealand Rugby, but would make the following points. We support the Crusaders and Canterbury Rugby's submission. We believe a roofed stadium would be the best solution for rugby in Christchurch. There is no doubt that Dunedin's Forsyth Bar Stadium has set a new standard for a South Island venue and can have concerts, rugby matches and other events allocated to it with complete confidence that the conditions for both players and fans will be good. As far as Test match allocation is concerned, we have a long-standing policy in New Zealand Rugby of spreading these matches throughout the main centres of the country. In any one year we have 6 or 7 Test matches, and final allocation decisions depend on the capacity, yield and commercial terms of hire. In this regard, it's important to note that the facility that is built needs to be available to hire in a way that works for both the venue and the hirer. All too often, New Zealand stadia rely on commercial funding partnerships that conflict with those of the hirer, increasing the complexity of how a facility can be used. We recognise you need to generate a reasonable commercial rental from users, but encourage you in thinking about a stadium to structure the terms of hire in as simple a manner as possible, because this makes the facility work for both the user and the venue itself. On a positive note, we have an international program of Test matches locked in for the next decade. A roofed stadium of up to 30,000 seats would make Christchurch highly desirable for Test match allocation, and subject to satisfactory commercial arrangements, we'd expect Christchurch would be allocated 1 Test per year, the same as for Wellington. We also support the Crusaders' argument in terms of the need for a top-class home for the most successful team in the history of Investec Super Rugby. While the temporary stadium addressed the real risk to the future of the team, the risk has returned as this temporary stadium goes past its use-by date. I would like to conclude by reiterating New Zealand Rugby's support for the Crusaders and Canterbury Rugby's submission to bring forward the building of a multi-use arena with a roof as part of the long-term plan. We believe this would address the risks posed by the current temporary AMI stadium, as well as bringing sports and entertainment opportunities, including Test match rugby, back to the City of Christchurch. Thanks for the opportunity today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Well, I think the first question is around, the financial, potential financial contribution from New Zealand Rugby. It is a question that we've been asked by a number of submitters in terms of what that contribution can be, given the concern about the increasing costs of having to bid against other cities for games in our own city.
I think the key way that New Zealand Rugby would contribute financially is by bringing games to Christchurch and using your facility on commercial terms. We certainly would see that as being a given. We're not looking for a free pass, if you like, in terms of use of the facility. We'd be looking to allocate games and pay a commercial rate for doing so. In terms of the tender process for matches, that's far more about just ensuring that the council and the wider community are engaged, so that when a test match is played in your city, the city comes alive. There are opportunities for fans, your ratepayers and others to enjoy the opportunity not just in the stadium but in the wider city environs.
Okay. Vicky?
Up on that question, the one where if you want an All Black test you get to bid for it against other cities in New Zealand. So are you saying that a big part of that bid is the engagement of the community? So what you actually put forward by way of monetary contribution is only a very small part, and is that in the terms of reference when you put out these bids?
Yeah, the bid process is multifaceted. There's no doubt that the quality of the facility and the yield that we get from playing in that facility is the primary thing of importance. So, as I've said in my opening statement, with a roofed stadium of up to 30,000 seats, you would be in a position with that facility to be pretty well assured of a test match every year. What we'd be looking for in the wider discussions around that allocation is, just need to make sure that the city is engaged, and that there are opportunities for fans both from here and from outside the city to be in fan zones, that the city is themed for the test, and you're really leveraging that opportunity. That's what we're looking for.
So as long as we did that, we wouldn't have to pay any money towards a bid? No,
with your contribution in terms of hosting test matches would be to be providing what, if you develop a roof stadium of the nature that's been talked about, you will have the best facility of its kind in New Zealand.
And so at that point we don't have to bid against the other cities?
There will be an allocation process, so strictly speaking you would be bidding, but I can tell you that in terms of our submission with this facility, other things, I can't sit here and give you a cast iron guarantee, but your bid will lead to you hosting test matches on a very regular basis, in the same way that Wellington does, Wellington, Auckland and Dunedin do currently.
Jamie?
Yeah. Thanks, and thanks for taking the time to speak to the submission, Nigel. Just following on from that, and obviously with the Forsyth Bar example, there were some guarantees of test matches put in there, and what you've said in your submission I think is pretty powerful, because you've said a lot with that. But if we were to be of a mind to bring that funding forward and to work hand in glove with the Crown to be able to expedite the multi-use arena, would the NZRU be open to having discussions of potentially guaranteeing a number of Tier 1 test matches over a period of time as part of that?
Well, we allocate test matches over a number of years, yes. So it's not inconceivable as part of that process we could talk to you about what that means. The only reluctance that New Zealand Rugby has got in terms of giving a cast iron guarantee is that means that some of the other things around engagement of a city with the fan zones and so on might fade into the background.
Yes.
And you know, I think with a city like Christchurch that is really engaged, you've already had meetings with Joanna Norris and really exciting things happening in that space, that as long as we know that we understand the terms of hire, we understand the commitment of the wider community to really get excited about an event, that's what we're looking through that allocation process. So that those two things might be able to be aligned.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much, and appreciate that you were here alone today, and for reasons others weren't here. I think you've heard, we've expressed the concerns that have been expressed, and it's right to put that to you. So thank you very much for making your time available.
You're welcome.
Thank you.